Very good evening to you. I'm Lisa Broom with the CBC Evening News. It seems Barbados is looking at a good sugar harvest this year. This year's sugarcane production is on course to at least meet the projected target of 12,000 tons of sugar. In fact, the general manager of Barbados's Lone Sugar Factory says the final amount produced may actually surpass the initial estimate. Kent Jerson has the latest.
Giving an update on the harvest, Portville Factory's general manager Raphael O'Neill appeared confident they will reach the target set of 12,000 tons of sugar.
It was really actually about 12,000 tons. We had 126,000, right? 900 tons of cane. So far we have received about 80,000, right? And we have crushed that amount. The sugar roughly would be about close to 6,000, including what is in the house.
Looking ahead, he believes production this year may be better than predicted.
So we're supposed to have about 46,000 tons left. And we expect to get a little more than that because some of the people are sort of underestimated a bit.
Mr. O'Neill says the operations this year have been relatively smooth. According to him, the only major challenge relates to the weather and its impact on the sweetness of the cane, which has implications for the sugar yield.
On a comparative basis, week to week, I think we're doing a little better in terms of the lost time and so on. The only problem we have this year is that due to the weather, the cane is not as sweet, I put it this way. So even though you might have more cane, you don't have the equivalent amount of sugar that we were expecting is not really there. You're seeing that. And this is because of the weather with the little rain falling. Each time rain falls, cane grow a little bit. So we're hoping that we get some dry periods so that the cane can ripen.
Mr. O'Neill says, nevertheless, they remain optimistic. So much so, he suggests next year's sugar production could be even higher.
If they give them the same conditions and if all things work the same as how it worked last year, we should go up a little more.
Kent Jerson, CBC News.
Thanks, Kent. Well, we're still over a month away from the official start of the Crop Over Festival in June, but Calypso tents are already readying themselves for their part in the season. Let's hear from Shane Jones.
There are no new tents among the 7 that have already registered with the NCF for the 2017 season. However, there will be some movement of Calypsonians. The popular headliners, whose manager Adrian Boo Husbands passed away in January, will not be pitching tent this year, and 2 of their Calypsonians have found new homes. Multiple Party Monarch winner Mr. Blood will be joining forces with powerhouse tent The Big Show, while Fabi will be with All Stars, who will boast a cast of 17. The Big Show has already made public its impressive lineup, including 10 former Monarchs across all competitions. House of Soca's cast of 16 will feature 4 new acts, and they plan to do things a little differently this year. They have planned a community launch in Jackson St. Michael on May 6, where the tent will host a T20 night cricket match comprising Calypsonians. Well, if you're planning to go out to some of the tents this year, the official judging nights have been released. Stray Cats will be judged on July 2nd, The Big Show July 5th, Super Gladiators July 8th, The Experience Tent on July 9th, Africa Heartbeat on July 11th, House of Soca on July 12th, and the All Stars on July 13th. The unattached Calypsonians will be judged on July 1st. Crop Over 2017 begins on May 14th and culminates with Grand Kadooment on August 7th. Shane Jones, CBC News.
Thanks, Shane. As the Barbados Secondary Teachers Union prepares to lead a protest march, the Minister of Education has expressed concern about the constant abandonment of classrooms and the impact on students and schools. Minister Ronald Jones says the action places greater pressure on teachers who remain in the classroom and can lead to disciplinary issues. He's also of the view that public confidence will be eroded in schools as a result. Now, contrary to what is being suggested, Mr. Jones says there is no intended or unintended disrespect by his ministry towards teachers' unions. He says the basis on which the protest is established is a weak one, noting that trade unions are still respected and remain part of the social partnership. Mr. Jones says there's no need for the combative atmosphere.
It's very painful, it's very problematic. And I'm asking as Minister of Education, because it is affecting our children who see constantly this barrage of calling people out of school, walking out of school, calling meetings during school time when children should be taught, but then still demanding the extent of their pay when they are not present to deliver to the students. That really is part of their call. We should show greater levels of commitment, not only to ourselves, but also to those who are placed in our charge.
Mr. Jones is calling for a return to dialogue, saying his ministry has an open door policy.
We have not said that we are not meeting. You're right for a meeting. I know that there is a meeting set up, and this meeting has been set up not as a, unlike what has been said by the STU, that when the union stands strong. We've always talked about union solidarity. We've in here talked about union solidarity. 3 of the principal leaders of the trade union of the past are in this ministry, coming through the BUT. Myself, the parliamentary secretary, and the chief education officer. So where do you think that they will be thinking? Not to have this buoyant, frustrating behavior taking place, because it also affects us.
Well, the BSTU is moving ahead with what it is calling its March of Respect tomorrow morning. President Mary Ann Redmond says they will start with a rally at 9:30 in Queen's Park. She says the decision to march comes out of a meeting with the general membership 2 weeks ago. Among their grievances, violence against teachers, as well as the need for compensation for correcting SBAs. She says the Education Ministry needs to take their concerns seriously.
Some of our members at various schools are being disadvantaged. Their basic rights are being violated, and the boards of management some boards of management are not taking the grievance procedure seriously. That grievance procedure has been devised and put into law so as to reduce conflict, or rather resolve conflict, and prevent conflict from emerging into dispute. The same is true at the level of the Ministry of Education, where we too are finding that they are not taking the grievance procedure seriously as well.
Government's plan to make Barbados a green economy could be impacted by one of the most recent decisions by U.S. President Donald Trump. President Trump, along with others in his administration, has dismissed climate change as a hoax created by scientists. And in a recent executive order, he removed all regulations put in place by his predecessor, Barack Obama, to deal with climate change. And now Environment Minister Dr. Dennis Lowe acknowledges the move is not good for Barbados. He says funding to some of the UN organizations that provided money small island developing states need for their programs will take a hit.
We now have to plow ahead with our renewable energy program. We have to continue to look for unique ways to fund our coastal rehabilitation programs. We have to continue to work closely with our partners who still believe that climate change is a clear and present threat to the survivability of small island developing states and low-lying states, and that we have to look for creative ways in supporting the funding of our green energy programs.
One of those programs, according to Dr. Lowe, is a USAID-funded climate change project in the north of the island, which has been going for several years. Dr. Lowe explains that through it, Barbados has been making progress in programs aimed at managing its use of land and water in places like Speightstown and Holetown.
I'm not suggesting that that funding will be discontinued, but I'm not certain as to what the future will be on programs like that, is what I'm trying to say. And the truth is that we cannot really allow ourselves to be hemmed in by what happens or does not happen due to international funding. The government of Barbados must find ways of protecting the livelihoods of its people.
Well, the Ivy community in St. Michael remains in shock tonight following the unnatural death of a 4-month-old baby. Police say it seems the child was mistakenly forgotten at home by his parents yesterday.
Police are still trying to find out how the 4-month-old baby died between 7 a.m. and 6 in the evening. A visibly upset man who confirmed he was the father of the child was seen along Gittins Road, the Ivy, with one of his friends. He was later joined by a group of men who told CBC it was a very sad time for the young father. While speaking to CBC, he appeared very distraught, but told us he did not want to give his name or make a comment on camera. In fact, police have not released any details about the names of the father, mother, or the young baby. However, in a nearby shop, one man who identified himself as Danny told us he has 2 children, a boy and a girl, and feels extremely sad that such a thing could happen so close to home.
That is one hurtful situation. I don't know how everybody else is me. Again, nothing with me. For real. And the rest are for real.
Efforts to reach the mother of the child were also unsuccessful. This tragedy, which is causing tremendous public dialogue, is just one in a growing list of unnatural deaths suffered by the island's children over the past 3 years. Kareem Smith, CBC News.
Thanks, Kareem. Well, last night we told you about some potential problems at Liat. Tonight we have an update on that story. Stay with us.
Register now for the RBC Race for the Kids 5K Run and Walk in support of the UWI Cave Hill Campus Scholarship Fund. Visit our website or see press for details. RBC Royal Bank. It's all about you.
Time's tight, Bico's price is right. Bico's Double Delight French Vanilla 1-liter ice cream is now at the unbeatable price of $17 VAT inclusive. It's Barbados' best-selling ice cream at a best-selling price, $17 VAT inclusive. This offer available from participating outlets island-wide, Bico Mobilers and the Bico Direct Outlet on Harbor Road.
Hello friends, this is Jeff Shepard inviting you to join us every Thursday from 6 to 7 on QFM for Nichols Bacon Inc. Manor. Always fresh.
Liat staff concerned about the late payment of their salaries should be paid over the next 2 days. This from St. Vincent Prime Minister and Chairman of the Shareholder Governments of Liat, Dr. Ralph Gonzalez. His comments came after the shareholder governments met with the Caribbean Airlines management and unions representing the workers at the Hilton. It was just before 6 this evening when Prime Ministers Gonzalez and Frendel Stewart, along with the other stakeholders, emerged from the meeting. Mr. Gonzalez said after a frank and at times robust discussion, one of the outcomes is the payment of staff in short order.
What I think will happen is that I believe that instructions had gone to the bank today for the payments. I think depending on which bank it is, some will get paid tomorrow, some the next day, you know, the usual thing with. And you know, once we get this kind of a work which we are talking about going on properly, the workers and the employees and the management will sort out these issues on a practical, ongoing basis.
Prime Minister Gonzalez says a decision also has to be taken to take a critical look at the regional carrier with a view to ensuring its sustainability. This and other proposals the unions are expected to discuss with their membership.
I would liaise with the President of the Caribbean Development Bank. I would name someone who will together draw up a terms of reference for a technical committee first to study a series of issues concerning the operations of Liat. And that would be fed into a task force appointed by the shareholders. And that task force would hold consultations with all the relevant stakeholders. They'll talk naturally with the management in detail, with the pilots, with the union, all the other unions and workers representative.
Asked if he believes Liat will still face the prospect of industrial action in the near future, Prime Minister Gonzalez said he would be very surprised if that happens, given the tone of the meeting. A number of improvements will accompany the hosting of Carifesta 13 later this year. This one includes the home of the Daphne Joseph Hackett Theatre in Queen's Park getting a complete makeover. Shane Jones reports.
With a budget of $5.9 million Barbados dollars, the Queen's Park's buildings are getting much-needed renovations. In fact, there has been no major work on the buildings in over 35 years, and Culture Minister Stephen Lashley, along with the contractor and officials from the NCF, toured the facility to be updated on the progress. Minister Lashley says he's confident that the work will be finished in time for the August 17th start date of Carifesta.
The building is due to be completed by the 7th of July, and after that we will get into the work of fitting the building, which should last approximately 1 month. In terms of the actual new features, the building will have an elevator. There was no elevator before, and that of course to bring the building into the modern age, to ensure that of course persons who are differently able can access and use the building. And the renovations of course take that into account in terms of members of the disabled community who will have to attend events here. The corridors, the balconies are being extended to provide more room, and of course special care is being taken to ensure that our actors are appropriately accommodated. There will be both a male and female extended section for persons who are involved in the acting aspect of it, and of course downstairs where we have the exhibition space, the gallery, that will be appropriately renovated and made available.
The Culture Minister says it's part of an initiative to focus the country's attention on the importance of the cultural industry sector.
We have earmarked that to be a key plank upon which we will begin to rebuild the economy of Barbados. We have a lot of confidence in the sector to drive revenue generation as well as foreign direct inflows of foreign exchange. So this is critical for us, and I think that for us to be able to restore these buildings really is an indication of the level of seriousness that we have in government, particularly where of course the economy is faced with some challenges.
The project has created 65 jobs. Shane Jones, CBC News.
The president of the local bar association isn't convinced a recent suggestion from the director of public prosecutions on how to reduce the backlog of cases before the court will achieve that goal. Over the weekend, Charles Leacock said there are over 800 cases in the High Court awaiting trial and 10,000 cases filed annually in the lower court. And with increases expected to continue, he suggested that trial for indictable matters like drugs, money laundering and murders should be tried by a judge alone. But Bar Association President Liesl Weeks is not convinced this is the answer.
I am not certain that the delay that occurs in the hearing of criminal matters occurs at the trial stage. My understanding is that the delay occurs before trial and getting the files in a state of readiness for trial. So that if we really wanted to address the backlog, we would have to focus on the points of delay in getting the files ready for trial and then eliminating those points of delay.
Senior students at the Lester Vaughan Secondary School got to focus on their future in a special way yesterday. They were exposed to several concepts intended to teach them how to maximize their potential. Ken Jerson has more.
On Gender Day at Lester Vaughan Secondary School, some students, mostly fourth formers, had the opportunity either to learn some of the basics or have them reinforced as they look to a future beyond the classroom. For this initiative, the youngsters are separated, with Deputy Principal Tanya Harding leading the girls' session and Principal Major Michael Boyce taking charge of the boys. One of the topics the girls dealt with was how they should prepare for and conduct themselves during interviews. Miss Harding encouraged them to pay attention to their appearance. She says tattoos, for example, should be covered up.
What does a tattoo say about you? What do your employees see when they see that tattoo? They might think you're a rebel. that you like to do your own thing. And in most spaces where you're going to end up work, you have to be part of a team. So they want to see that you're a team player, that you will play by the rules, and a TASU just doesn't say that.
Speaking to CBC during a break, Ms. Harding spoke about the various topics they intended to go through.
Our morning session was dealing with the interview process, dressing for the interview, and writing the resume. And we are just about to start a session on health and sexual health. This afternoon, we're going to look at makeup for the world of work. We're also going to do some breakfast hacks, how to make breakfast within 10 minutes, because a number of our students come to school without eating breakfast. And then we'll finish off the day with exercise, which of course keeps them healthy, and how to relieve stress with stretches.
The boys in another room covered many of the same topics, although they didn't quite engage in the cooking exercise like the girls.
The boys, we're not going to do the cooking today. We are going to do a session on nutrition and health and fitness, and encourage them to take that aspect of their life as important.
They did, however, tackle some of the important issues specific to males.
We are also going to touch on issues such as the male or the female and sexuality. What does it mean to be a male in today's society, and is that what truly being a male represents or being a man represents?
Mr. Harding said the Gender Day initiative came from the desire of staff to have the students focus more on their future so they can chart a course to fulfill their significant potential. Kent Jerson, CBC News.
Thanks, Kent. And still to come, a challenge to Trinidad and Tobago's efforts to carry out the death penalty.